1,000-page tax code that is rife with corporate loopholes. There's a building in the Cayman Islands that supposedly houses 12,000 U.S. corporations, which means it's either the largest building in the world or the biggest tax ripoff in the world, and I think we know which one it is. So there has to be a restoration of balance in our tax code to help that single mom, to help a two-parent working family that are struggling to make ends meet. And so I've put forward a very specific plan. I've said we are going to offset some of the payroll taxes that people are experiencing so that families who are making less than $50,000 a year get a larger break. I want to make sure that seniors who are making less than $50,000, that they get some relief in terms of the taxes on their Social Security. Those kinds of progressive tax steps, while closing loopholes and rolling back the Bush tax cuts to the top 1%, simply restores some fairness and a sense that we're all in this together as opposed to each of us being in it on our own.
Congressman Kucinich, I want to move to the issue of hedge funds. Hedge funds, managers of hedge funds.
Right.
There's a listing in the paper the other day of the 100 top managers of hedge funds. Excuse me. At the top, $1.5 billion. Number 100 makes $50 million. They pay a tax rate of 16% rather than ordinary income of 31, 32%. The Democrats took control of Congress in November of '06. The leader of the Democrats in the Senate, Harry Reid, said, we're not going to change it this year. Your reaction?
It's one of the reasons why the American people are so distressed with the current condition of the Democratic Party. They won't stand up to Wall Street with this over $1 trillion of unregulated capital with hedge funds. They won't end the war, as our party promised to do in the 2006 election. They won't stand up to the insurance companies, the for-profit insurance companies, by joining me in a not-for-profit system. So people are asking then, what's the difference between Democrats and Republicans? Tim, my candidacy is a candidacy which will protect the interest of Main Street. No privatization of Social Security, make the hedge funds accountable, protect the small investors who are at risk with these public offerings of these hedge funds. My domestic policy subcommittee has been looking at this. I was one of the first ones on Capitol Hill to look at it. Right now, it's all about a redistribution of the wealth upwards, Tim. You know, the tax system is about redistributing the wealth upwards. The healthcare system redistributes the wealth upwards. Our energy policies redistribute the wealth upwards. We have to have a president who is independent enough to be able to stand up to these interest groups and push the Democratic Congress to defend the American people by standing for the end of the war in Iraq, by standing for a universal, not-for-profit health care system, by standing for control of these oil companies, which are out of control, and finally, by standing for the Constitution. I will say it one more time. It's time for the Democratic Party to take a position on impeachment and for the House of Representatives to move the bill that I've introduced.
Senator Edwards, you work for a hedge fund. By every estimate, we could save $25 billion over 10 years. New revenue to be used for a whole variety of programs.
Yes.
Why won't the Democratic Party act on this issue?
They should. I mean, this is an example of the extraordinary corruption that still exists in the system in the government. What happened was the Congress started to move to act. The lobbyists for the hedge funds descended and managed to kill it. It's just that simple. This is one, unfortunately, of a whole series of things that indicate that our government doesn't work the way it should and the corruption has crept into it. I wish it was the only thing. It's not the only thing. I mean, we have young men and women serving this country patriotically and heroically in Iraq, and we got a bunch of paid mercenaries moving around over there working for Blackwater and others who gave hundreds of thousands of dollars to Bush and the Republican Party. We've got politically connected people at home making millions of dollars while our men and women serve and put their lives on the line in Iraq. We decided to try to keep the country safer by inspecting containers that come into this country. And who lobbied against it? The biggest company in America, Walmart. We've had trade deals that have cost us millions of jobs, and what did America get in return? We got millions of dangerous Chinese toys. These things are all evidence of a system that doesn't work. Now, we can turn our backs on it and pretend it's not true, and as I said earlier, leave this mess to our children and our grandchildren. Or we can do what the Founding Fathers said we should do, and what has happened over and over in American history when this happened. There is nothing the American people can't do. There's nothing wrong with the American people. They are strong, heroic, passionate, but their voice needs to be heard. The government belongs to them. It doesn't belong to this crowd of powerful, moneyed interests in Washington, D.C. And we have to be willing to say the truth about it and to change this system so that our children actually can have a better life than we've had.
Senator, thank you. We're going to introduce the concept of a lightning round here. Take one question, go down the line, 30 seconds each, a time we're going to enforce. And Governor Richardson, we're going to start with you. This is about something called Trends in International Mathematics and Science Study. It's called TIMSS. A number of overseas nations took part in it. It found that overseas students spend an average of 193 days annually in school. The deficit compared to the U.S., where it's 180 days, over 12 years, that adds up to 1 year gap between education in the U.S. and overseas. Do you believe we in this country need to extend the school day and/or extend the school year, and will you commit to it?